panel shine, cause I'm not paying the bills back, bitch. Please pay the weather panel shine, cause life too short and shit's a shame. Should I shake my pockets dry? So you're supposed to be living high, but you greedy gremlins lied. I thought for so long I did something wrong. Maybe I didn't work hard enough. My mom should have 3 cars and 2 houses with solar panel roofs by now. Time to tell the clues right now. Maybe I could have worked a little harder, put myself on my own bootstraps, been a little smarter, been more successful than anyone else in the world, with a bright smile and nose harder. What you didn't tell me is my people aren't given the same access. You didn't tell me you'd overwork us in our best years and give us crumbs what we deserve in our worst. You didn't tell me, bitch. You didn't tell me you'd pollute my air, make me full of plastics, and I don't care, because I don't care, and we don't care at least as much as we should. So goodbye, bills. Most of you should have been free, so I'll go ahead and set myself free with the strength of my ancestry. And I really, really wonder, what will future anthropologists say about how many fucks we just don't give? Wrong generation for the right liberation, bitch. We not paying them bills back, especially now when all of this is happening because of y'all. Oh, you got us hooked up. How about this? We'll pay it all back when you tell us all the ways to try to steal from us, try to kill, don't feel for us, the people. Okay, make a deal with us, huh? Yeah.
Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. The Jaybefaunt channel is also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there on Sundays for the JB show, as well as Thursdays for the Savvy and JB show, and typically here on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, yes, of course, I have to remind myself, but it's so good to see all of you here today. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. If you already like me, you really, really like me, go ahead and do that there. Thank you so very much for that. Also, if you got something out, have you subscribed to my Substack yet? This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, write any articles, or upload any clips. So you guys have that there. And also, if you guys want a video response to a question, or you want me to react to a specific video, then you guys can submit that through QBounty at qbounty.com/JBFaunt. So thank you very much for that. So with that being said, it is a beautiful Saturday to see all of you. And I just wanted to play that cold open because a lot of us are now feeling the brunt of especially what's been going on, in this country, as far as people who are poor and working poor. And so a lot of us are feeling the phrase, we ain't going to pay those bills. So I think that's the beauty of, art, is that we can actually express ourselves and tell the corporate dictators, to shove it where the sun don't shine, And so I take solace in that. So I'm going to say just a blanket hello to everybody that's in the chat, because I do have a guest today and I want to make sure that I respect their time as well. So good to see all of you who are in here and chatting on YouTube, Twitter, Rockfin, and Rumble. So good to see all of you here. But what will we be talking about today? Let's get into it, folks. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump. Prepare for impact. One of the things that we're going to be discussing is our expectations for Trump's second term. This is going to be a conversation that we're going to be having, especially about those of us who are post-duopoly and those who are actively trying to change the system that is more conducive for workers and not for the billionaire class, not for the ruling class. How are we going to navigate this system? So I would like to introduce activist and former Green Party candidate Terence Cudney to join with me today. Hello, Terence. Good to see you and welcome back.
Hey, JB. How's it going?
Good, good. Nice to have you. And I am very happy to have you. Now, one of the things I want to start off with is the question about your expectations in regards to Trump. Now, it was quite a interesting election where but the Democrats had one candidate, and then midway through they had to switch, right? And so, of course, that switching, they had to switch from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris. And then after switching to Kamala Harris, a lot of people, especially in corporate media, thought that she was a shoo-in for president. And once again, between 2016 and now, they were left gobsmacked that she actually lost, that their candidate lost. Did you expect Kamala Harris to win, or were you expecting a Trump win, or were you just kind of up in the air?
Yeah, great question. So first off, I should just say, technically I was an independent candidate, not a Green candidate, but a lot of love for my Green Party friends, for sure. But anyway, to the question, yeah. So I did a sort of 4-part expectation or prediction for the election, and I had sort of a worst case scenario for Kamala, best case scenario for Kamala, worst case scenario for Trump, best case scenario for Trump. The worst case scenario for Kamala, best case scenario for Trump is what ended up happening. So it certainly was within the realm of possibility from my perspective to see Kamala Harris and lose, and all these folks that were so convinced that the polls are showing she's gonna really take it, and some even being really bullish on Kamala, that she was going to be the one to go way above 300 electoral college votes. A lot of them had a bit of something on their face after that. No, so I'd say broadly I was not surprised. And that's just kind of the way it is with elections in this country. Is it's all about who shows up on the day, who's energized, and it turns out that the energy was on the Republican side, at least as far as duopoly candidates are concerned.
Yeah, from what I've observed, and I made a prediction that Trump would win all the swing states. And I think in the end, he won over 400 electoral college votes, which is a massive win. Plus, he won the popular vote as well. So this is quite of a sea change from what his victory in 2016, where he didn't win the popular vote, but he won the electoral college. So, I think it was according to CNN, they actually did a poll. Not a poll, but they actually measured the approval rating for Donald Trump and the end of his first term compared to the end of Joe Biden's first term. Well, only term for the most part. And Donald Trump actually ended with 39% approval rating by the end of 2020, right before the inauguration of Joe Biden. And at the same point in time, Joe Biden, his ending approval rating was 38%. So Joe Biden was actually worse than Donald Trump after his first term. So if there's any indication as a turnaround, right? Because of what happened, it was that. One of the things I wanted to go into, and actually, let me ask you this first. Out of all the executive orders and actions that Donald Trump has done since Monday, what is the one that stands out to you the most, either the most interesting or the most concerning?
Yeah, I think the work that he's doing to call a state of emergency at the border was probably the most stark to me, though probably not the most surprising. That's the kind of red meat that he pushed towards his base in the run up to the election, and frankly, unfortunately, the Democrats were right there, with him with trying to push for this bill that didn't end up passing because Trump said, "Well, I don't want to, any chance that they'd get a win out of a border bill before I take office." So he basically scuttled the deal, and now here we are with declaring an emergency at the border. When the fact is, we're not at like some crazy heightened level of immigration at the southern border, and so it's all red meat. It's all about showing who he listens to. And the thing about Donald Trump, I mean, you talk about the approval ratings. He's the one who at least tries to do what he says he's going to do. And obviously a lot of things that we that he wants to do aren't the things that we want to see done. And yet those are the things that he moves forward on. And so, yeah, I think that executive order was, again, not the most surprising, but certainly the starkest. I think you interacted with one of my tweets from yesterday, or X posts or whatever we're supposed to call them now, about a friend of mine who was basically put on a no-fly list because her name looked, Arab or Somali, just for flying domestically, not even internationally. And that was terrifying to my friend, and she reached out to me. We hadn't really been in touch for a little while, and it's about to get real hard for a lot of people in this country who weren't necessarily born here, but still are entitled to a certain number of rights just by virtue of being in our country. And we're seeing that increasingly dismantled under both flavors of administration, whether it's Democrat or Republican, but certainly very brazenly and out in the open under Donald Trump.
Yeah, it goes to show that one of the things that I talked about in the reaction to his inauguration speech on Monday was that Trump was actually doing a lot of things that really was within the power of the presidency that Biden never really did. Biden never really pushed. And not saying that he could have pushed the same policies, but I'm saying that Biden had that broad spectrum that he could have done in the beginning in order to help the working class people, but he chose not to because of the donors that he is subservient to. And just looking at some of the things, like for instance, one of the things that Donald Trump was talking about was a way to alleviate the inflation prices. Now, of course, I don't agree with the way he's going about it by increasing the fossil fuels, increasing the drilling and things like that in order to alleviate prices, at the prices at the pump, prices, as far as the food and goods. But at the same time, it's like he's doing something which to a lot of people, especially a lot of poor and working poor people, that's some type of relief, even though it may not be the best. It's something. It's like, I may not be able to give you vegetables, a starch, and a meat for dinner, but if I can give you peanut butter and jelly, at least I gave you something, right? And that's in a way, that's how they're looking at it. It's like he at least is doing something instead of just neglecting us. And this feels like it can be a recipe for disaster for the working class, because we're going to get so used to just getting crumbs again that the Democrats will be able to just throw out whatever they want by the time we reach 2028, subsequently in 2026, but more in 2028, and say, well, see, at least we're doing this, as opposed to Republicans. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to know where to start. I mean, the fact is, what he's doing to try and alleviate prices is very much juicing, the economy in a very artificial way that's likely to last long term. So it'll be interesting to see, going forward, what he actually does to substantively improve things in the longer term. Actually, if I'm remembering correctly, I think, Donald Trump allowed the expansion of the child care tax credit, if I'm remembering that correctly, and then it expired under Joe Biden. So that's an instance of a program to actually try and help people. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. I forget whether it was technically passed under Trump or under Biden, but the fact that Biden was the one to take it away, certainly I'm sure had a real impact on people's wallets. I'm a new dad myself, and I'm trying to figure out how to pay for childcare. We're mostly lucky enough that we have a village locally that's helping us, so we're not having to necessarily go out and pay for childcare, but the prices out there for that are crazy. And so, yeah, I feel like we're going to see, as we see from both parties, a lot of these sort of moves to try and show like you're trying to do something for the working class. And then when it fails, then you can say, oh, well, it's just the system, or it's the nature of this, or, you can blame whomever it is. Likely in this administration, I'd expect immigrants will bear a lot of the scapegoating cost for that. But yeah, it's not looking good economically for the working class, and so I'll be interested to see as time goes on if he tries to work out some bipartisan deal that does something real for the working class. I'm not super confident in that, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I want to shift gears to not shift gears, but I want to share this as well, because there's a sparring match between the mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles and Donald Trump recently, and this really just shows that Donald Trump is trying his best to make it seem like he's a champion of the working class. I want to share this because a lot of people are looking at this and going, well, here is this man that's actually fighting for us, instead of somebody that, like Karen Bass says, they'll look at her as almost like an elitist. Like, this is the problem with the Democratic Party, is that they're being seen and they're acting in an elitist way, which really just undermines, the goals that they say that they are trying to do for the working class people. I wanted to play this and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Move as fast as we can, but we want you to be safe. We want you to be back in your homes immediately.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't cost a lot.
Yes, and they can.
You should let them do it, because by the time you hire contractors, it's going to be 2 years.
If a family...
People are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
And they can.
There's not that much left. It's all incinerated.
That's right.
And, it's just going to take a long time if you do. You can do some of it, but a lot of these people, I know that guy right there that's talking. I know my people. You'll be on that thing tonight, throwing the stuff away, and your site it'll look perfect within 24 hours. And that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months till the city hires some demolition contract that's going to charge him $25,000 to do his lot. Yeah. I think you have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them.
Because you have a very powerful emergency power, and you can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Well, yes, but you know that you will be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important thing is for people to be safe.
They're safe. They're safe. You know what? They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn. And they want to go in. The people are all over the place. They're standing, and I say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit, and the permit's going to take them. Everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months.
That was last night.
And that was last night.
On that.
Right.
Yesterday.
Mr. President, we're going to be together next week, and during the interim, many of us are involved in, and Tom McClintock, who you know has been an expert on this for years.
That's right.
We are going to be putting conditions on the money that do two things: require that it be done timely and affordable, and then secondly, that we protect those who will come afterwards. As we speak, there are 6,000 acres burning in my district on the Mexican border. There will be more fires until we include in any disaster relief items which will prevent it or at least mitigate it from happening again. So you're going to see us proposing both of those.
Like water. Little
We're
things
gonna
like
do
water.
that for
You
them.
know, the party of common sense. See, we're the party of common sense. You're not, in all fairness.
Yes, sir.
We like water to put out fires. It's really quite efficient. All right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Your thoughts?
Wow. I mean, I think the first thing that struck me is just like the like emotional tension in the room there between Karen Bass and President Trump. Like, it's pretty obvious, when you say it out loud, but the power differential between, a mayor of one city and the president in terms of powers, like you're saying, well, you have emergency powers like I have emergency powers. Yeah, but it's a different, level. And by the way, I'm not one to defend Karen Bass. As I recall it, she defunded a number of fire departments in her city limits, shortly before this all went down. That's not a good look. But yeah, I was just struck by that sort of like that sort of power imbalance, and the sense that she's basically going to have to defend herself in this moment, from what Trump's going to say. And Trump is all offense. He's known for that. He's just able to go after people. And yeah, so that was one thing that really struck me. My sister actually lives in the LA area, and her boyfriend had to evacuate his house because it was next to a municipality that got evacuated from these fires. And I'd love to hear. I'm not familiar with this bit about the clearing of the brush and the contractors hired to do that. Like what was actually being proposed there. That's a little unclear to me, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, that it's tough. And that the other thing, obviously, that struck me was, that conversation about conditions on aid. We've seen that kind of rhetoric before, and the fact is, these are people that are hurting. You're only hurting the people when you put conditions on aid. You're not hurting, you're not helping them by saying, well, if you do this and you do that, then you get the aid. I also read something not that long ago that some like crazy percentage of the water in LA is like privately owned. Like it doesn't belong to the people. And so it can't be, sort of effectively used by the people. And I doubt you'll see Donald Trump railing against that. But it's unfortunate. I mean, we have two figures here, that both, that neither of them seem to really have the people's interest in mind, and are just, trying to defend their side of the aisle and in terms of the approach. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think about all of this?
See, here's the thing. This is why partisan politics will be the death of either party. Because if I were Karen Bass, one of the things I would have said was, well, the reason why we don't have enough water, Donald, is because billionaires actually own a huge portion of the water table in California, aka the Resnicks, and we try to deregulate it to have it, publicly owned. But instead, the conservatives and the conservative Democrats actually wanted them to own all the water. So this is why the houses are burning right now. So maybe if you and your party were actually more for the working class, then maybe this wouldn't have happened as bad. But here's the thing, Karen Bass, she's with the Democrats, and they also take money from the billionaire class. So therefore, she really can't attack them the way I just did. That's the problem, because she's tied to a part. First of all, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm getting to a point where I'm just saying no political parties, period. But the fact that you're tied to a party that takes big money in the first place, she can't go after him because then that will put her in this position to be called a hypocrite. So she can't, right? So she has to smile and keep her mouth shut and get egg on her face. And then on top of it, I understand where she's coming from. It's like, no, we don't want people to go in and start trying to pick up pieces and things like that because the structural integrity of some of these houses that have burned down, it could be a risk to people's health. And then our fire departments and our police departments and first responders are going to have to go to that emergency to save somebody when instead they should have waited instead to see if the structural integrity is good enough so that they can go and collect their belongings. The problem is that the city is probably not going to do it fast enough. She's probably not going to spearhead it fast enough. And so instead of having it spearheaded and, push through, of course, citizens are saying it's going to take 18 months. So then Donald Trump can attack her on that because all the red tape. And so, unfortunately, when I look at this, it's like I'm wincing because it's like Donald Trump is giving her body blow after body blow rhetorically, and it's like you could have done so much more, but at the same time, you're allowing yourself to be beholden to, partisan politics. And on top of that, I also would hold Karen Bass accountable for giving the $17 million, cutting the budget by $17 million from the LA the fire department and giving it to the police. Like, what, you need that money for the fire department, not the police. But the problem is who pushed for her to give that money to the police? Well, it will be the same party that Donald Trump is part of. So the thing is like, this is why I say to leave both parties, because they're just bickering at each other and pointing fingers, which really, in my eyes, is just political theater. But a lot of people don't know that. Some people think that the parties are two separate parties, when in reality, I still think there's all one party. But
yeah, I'll just add like two quick things to that. So, the person who challenged Karen Bass for the mayorship, Rick Caruso, can you envision, him giving less of that money to the police? Like when he ran on, ending crime, like that was his a big part of his platform. No, it would have been the same thing, whether it was a Democrat in office or a Republican in office, most likely. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. And the fact is, there are very blue states out there, so to speak, where it really already is a one-party state. We're talking about the lack of difference between the two parties, but it's quite literally a one-party state in states like California and where I live in Massachusetts, where there isn't really any back and forth, any real attempts to come to compromise on things like these, because there's no real opposition party that's like kind of steel sharpening steel, if you will, to make something real happen. And my hope would be that we, in terms of how we fight back against this as the working class, that we work to find ways to build actual third parties that can challenge these folks, especially in deep blue states. It feels like the ground is ripe for, a solid, leftist third party, if we're able to build one that can actually serve as some kind of check to, the party in power.
yeah, I'm hard pressed to find, somebody that, even if they're independent, if they're just, pushing for policies that will actually benefit the working class. But another thing that is the challenge is getting name recognition and being able to get through the gatekeeping of the corporate media, because the corporate media is going to also gatekeep your name. They're going to gatekeep your image and likeness so that people don't know who they are. And a lot of people, I think somebody was saying a couple days ago that they were upset that not as many people voted for Dr. Jill Stein in November. And I said, that's because most people don't know who she is. Because the problem is that she's not getting the traction. She didn't get heard quite a clues. Dr. Cornel West, they didn't get the traction that they should have gotten from the media because the media is beholden to the corporations. And so, of course, people don't know who they are because I remember back, when Dr. Jill Stein, and of course, I was, co-press director for her campaign. But one of the things that was abundantly clear was that when she was on the Breakfast Club and she went to that sparring match with Angela Rye, was that a lot of people realized, oh snap, there's actually somebody who can really speak truth to power, and that is not beholden to the corporations. And then the comments were a slew of people saying, I guess I'm going to be registering green now. And so that was a huge deal, and so a lot of times people are still stuck between the Democratic and Republican parties.
Yeah, and I exemplify that, running as an independent in oddly a red district, a state Senate district in Massachusetts. It was really only maybe 2 months or so before the election that I was actually able to get any traction, and by then it was too late to schedule a debate. We actually tried to schedule a debate, and they managed to shrink past that. And yeah, that. You're absolutely right. It's about like finding the weak points, in the establishment's armor for, getting through to people. And, frankly, not to toot my own horn, but like I think I was able to find that in being able to challenge, basically, this 20-year incumbent who hadn't had challenge in 14 of those years. And that's the only reason that I was able to do as well as I did. Now, I obviously didn't win. You could probably argue I didn't come very close to winning. But for, a left-leaning, left-wing independent, I made a dent. And so it's kind of about trying to find those chinks in the armor to address that. But let's be honest, there aren't a lot of them. The party apparatus is strong on both wings of the uniparty, if you will.
Yeah. I also want to go into this part because, as far as the border is concerned, there was some images that came out day after, what had happened. And so a lot of people have been sharing this video that actually has over 37 million views now because a lot of people have been seeing it. You probably saw it so far, but just for the audience, for them to see, this is out of Pop Crave. It says migrants in Ciudad Juarez reacted to the CBP-1 being shut down by Donald Trump minutes before their appointments. And so this is them at the border also reacting to now the border pretty much being shut down by Donald Trump and them not being able to get appointments to see for immigration status. So ultimately, I mean, this is very heartbreaking to see, especially for people who are, fleeing their country because of what the United States is doing. What kind of backlash or blowback do you think that could result from Donald Trump doing this move of declaring the emergency at the border?
I mean, I think this is one of those few instances where you might be able to convince some liberals readily to join the leftist view on, taking care of people like this. I'm not the most, optimistic on ability for a, sort of liberal left alliance, and that would even necessarily do a lot of good. But on issues like this, it's sort of morbidly funny to think of, but when you think of AOC crying at the border, however many years ago, that was able to capture the attention of people briefly, and we all know that your audience, I'm sure, knows the degree to which that was performative. But the fact is, you can capture the minds and the hearts of people with images like that. And let me just say from personal experience, I was fortunate enough with my previous job in the shelter system in Massachusetts to be able to take an immigration law class and be able to assist an attorney in processing, TPS, temporary protected status applications and asylum applications for, folks that are here and undocumented, but are, trying to find a way to stay here. And it was just so eye-opening, just like even this gatekeeping of this app, the fact that like you have to have a smartphone with an app installed, to be able to be processed at the border, like pretty crazy if you think about it. Right. And so anyway, that's sort of neither here nor there. I mean, the fact is, yeah, I think if this image is spread, if this video is spread widely enough, I think there's an opportunity to bring people together and to maybe start to dismantle some of this rhetoric that's infiltrated the Democrats the way that it has already, been with the Republicans for a while of, these immigrants are the problem. And, we just need to pass a bipartisan, draconian effort to make it that much more difficult for people to get through. I think there is an opening to try and dismantle some of that on this particular issue. Like I said, there's very few issues where I don't necessarily see a lot of room to partner with liberals, but this is one that I think if you strike the right tone and meet people where they are, the average person, not necessarily an elected Democrat to start, but the average person, I think might be swayed by a video like this.
My question, though, is what do you say to those who are actually for the closing of the border because they're saying that the exploitation of the undocumented workers really is undermining the wages of Americans here at home, and so it is really a self-preservation move to close down the border?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of, and I know you mean this question, genuinely. There's a lot of like misinformation to kind of dismantle within there. Just the fact of like, who's going to take the jobs of and I say this, as someone who worked in the restaurant industry not that long ago, right before I ran for state senate, who's gonna wipe the dishes and clear the tables at your restaurant for minimum wage, who's gonna pick the crops at your farm. The fact is, as much as, and we absolutely, by the way, this is just a first rhetorical step before we actually start to get to the problem of the exploitation of these workers. But the fact is, the average person, the average citizen is not going to be interested in taking those kind of jobs. So we're not dealing with, this notion that these are the people that are stealing your jobs, I think is one thing that we have to absolutely dismantle. But getting to the, the exploitation of these people piece. I mean, I think part of the problem is that, Republicans have been able to kind of capture this rhetoric to say, well, actually it'd be better for them if they weren't here. And so, it's actually the noble thing to do to, prevent them from coming. But at the same time, both parties are exploiting these countries in the countries, they're cooing these governments that they, disagree with, and so the fact is, I think it has to be paired with a more compassionate approach to our hemisphere in terms of, actually starting to create better relationships with these countries. Yeah, I mean, there's bits of this about, the drug war at the border, and the fact that this is an exploitative, kind of creation of our own doing that hurts these people. But gosh, there's a lot of misinformation to like peel back the curtain on. And I think there's, talk about the working class, like this is an international working class issue. Exploitation across borders, building a wall here to keep these people out. It's kind of a tale as old as at least modern global history. So I'm happy to get into more detail if you like, but those are a couple of things that come to mind for me.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Keep it in line with the working class. One of the things that I've noticed, and I actually talked about this last year, is that a growing number of older people are now struggling. Even people who were boomers who went into retirement are coming back out of retirement. They're coming into, having to work again. The inflation has actually ravaged them. A lot of them are becoming homeless now. I want to share this video really quick. This older lady is talking about thinking that the assumption that you're going to be good once you're able to retire. Within this system, she says you need to pause. So I want to share this.
People, they think when they get older, they're going to be settling down and things going to be wonderful. They're going to be peaceful. But let me tell y'all this here, this must be a new day, because guess what, y'all? People my age are still trying to make it. They still trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet. A lot of people still got their own homes, but they got to worry about the taxes. Some older people, they got to worry about how they're going to pay their utility bills. Some of those Social Security checks ain't enough. And a lot of times people really think that when I get older, when I get Social Security, when I be able to do it, you better get yourself together now for when you get older. Because people think that when they get old, y'all just don't have no idea. The young people don't have no idea. You got to get your life together now for when you get older. Figure out some kind of plan, y'all, that y'all can do when you get older, that you won't have to go through a lot of struggles that a lot of older people are going through. I'm shocked myself when I see how a lot of elderly people they're struggling. They're struggling. And every time you look, something going up. Now, inflation has ate up a whole lot of people's Social Security check, y'all. A whole lot of people, Social Security check, it can't pay everything. And they just struggling. And everything is, wait till my check comes. Everything they try to do, I got to wait for my check. Prepare yourself now for later. And make sure you get a plan. And more than Social Security, make sure you get other checks. Inflation eating up checks like crazy, y'all. Talk to you later. A lot of people, they think when they get older, they're going to be settling down and things going to be wonderful.
Well, your thoughts on that?
Wow, just the amount of truth that she's speaking to in that video in terms of the struggle of elder Americans is crazy. I was talking about my previous job in shelter services, my current job in affordable housing. I have residents that are older. Almost all of them are living on fixed income, and whether it's Social Security or something similar or related to that. And the fact is, it's really hard for elder folks. I think we're fortunate in my part of the state that in terms of when it comes to affordable housing, there is some, political will to support affordable housing for seniors. If you actually look out my window here, we just our city just built some affordable housing downtown for senior folks. But the fact is, like, there's affordable and there's affordable, right? We talk about, affordable versus capital A affordable. With the nonprofit that I work for now, all of our residents pay 30% of their income. So it's based on it's attached to their income rather than being, a number that's, determined by a landlord. And the rest is, subsidized by a voucher, or in some cases a set of vouchers or tax credits and this, that, and the other thing. But yeah, it's hard for these folks out here. And the idea of, trying to save for retirement myself. Like I'm only just starting to be able to put a little bit away here and there. And, you know, I'm so much more fortunate than so many people in our communities. Yeah, gosh, there's so much she said, so much truth she spoke to there. And yeah, I think a housing first approach is really important when it comes to this. You know, we have both, you know, folks in our communities that are very sort of YIMBY, yes, in my backyard. But the fact is, you know, YIMBYism doesn't mean much if you're not also, you know, supporting rent control, supporting, you know, expanding vouchers for affordable housing to more and more people. You know, if you're not, yeah, there's just so much to the policy that needs to change to support these elder people. And yeah, the sort of silver lining is that there is some, at least in my part of the country, there is some political will to support increasing opportunities for elderly people in terms of housing, meaning, you know, less of their income is going to housing. But yeah, for everybody, we're in a housing crisis. It's hard out here.
Yeah, I look at the housing crisis as there is a door with a garden in front of it, and there are thousands of people that are sitting outside starving, and there's a door behind, and behind that door is plenty of food, but the guards won't let people through. And the food's right there. We don't even need to make more food. It's right there, but the guards won't let us through. And so that's how it feels right now, especially in regards to the housing, because a lot of times people will say, well, we just need to build more housing. I'm like, there's 16 million vacant homes. How many more do we need to build? You know, I feel like that's just a way to tell us, well, we just need to build more. We don't have enough. It's like, that's a scarcity lie that we're constantly being told, when in reality, it's like, there's no scarcity. There's plenty for all of us. It's just, you just don't want anybody to have it unless they have, you know, the money to pay for something that's, I think, is an absolute necessity. But
yeah, can I just say, like, there is absolutely some truth to that. There's one like caveat I'd add, which is just that a lot of the housing supply is geographically stratified, right? So the fact is, in terms of what we have available to us in one part of the country versus another, there are places where the supply is there and people just don't want to live there. And there are places where, you know, there just isn't enough supply, but a lot of people want to live there. And so I do think, you know, building more housing is important for sure. But yeah, we also need a more sort of expansive approach to how do we house people, you know, if there isn't a place, you know, in this part of this state, you know, then maybe we can house them over here. But also trying to be really judicious and really careful not to just, like, you know, ship people around to wherever the house is. The other thing I just add is, you know, in a lot of cases, the housing supply that is available, there needs to be work done to make it, you know, usable for folks, like turning like a big mansion into multifamily housing, you know, for people like in my part of the state, here in Gloucester, Massachusetts, we have a lot of these big, you know, basically summer homes for rich people that go unused for so much of the year. And the fact is, like, from my perspective, you don't need a second, third, fourth house. Just allow this to be turned into something that multiple, you know, frankly, families can use instead of you using it for, you know, 3 months out of the year. But, you know, you're absolutely right. Like, there is supply. It is a question of, you know, how we allocate people to where the supply is and do that in a thoughtful, compassionate way, while also trying to build it, you know, in the places where the housing supply is scarce.
yeah, absolutely. I also want to turn to this as well. This recently just came out. Shout out to Case Study QB for this one. This is actually talking about the credit cards that people are near defaulting on. Let's look at this.
This might hit close to home for people because recent data shows a record number of credit card holders are making only minimum payments on their bills. So what does that say about the state of the economy right now? Well, that's according to a report by the Philadelphia Federal Reserve that the share of active credit card holders just making minimum payments rose to 10.75% in the third quarter. So that's the highest ever since 2012. The delinquency rate has also moved higher, with the share of balance more than 30 days overdue rising to 3.5%. So that's a year-on-year gain of more than 10%. On a positive note, though, we're still well below the peaks of this that we saw during the financial crisis of 2008 at 6.8%. Now, with higher prices, a lot of consumers have turned to credit cards, but the rate on these credit cards has also moved up quite aggressively. According to Fed data, the average credit card rates have climbed 21.5%, or about 50% higher than 3 years ago. So there's still a lot of uncertainty in the system of what this could mean going forward.
A lot to cover this morning. CNBC Charlotte Reed, live from London. Thank you.
All right. So in regards to that, one of the things we're seeing is not only delinquency rates rising, but also people paying the minimums on their credit cards. And this feels like something looming over the horizon during the Trump presidency. What are your thoughts?
Geez, yeah, I'll admit to a bit of ignorance in this area about like the history of credit. You know, the history of like, how did we come up with a system where people are forced to use money that they don't have and then have to try and figure out how they're going to pay that money later on? You know what I mean? Like, the system just feels insane to me, frankly, and I don't know enough about the history of it and how we got to be here. But yeah, the fact is, I mean, I can only speak from personal experience, right? So working in affordable housing, you know, our residents pay about $300 a month. And if you look at the housing prices in Massachusetts, or the rental prices in Massachusetts, that's pretty good for what it is, right? And yet we still see people struggling to be able to afford that amount. Yeah, it's insanity. It's insanity out here that we have this system where, you know, you build credit, and, you know, once your credit's good, then maybe you'll be okay. But if you fall back on a payment, then you're, you know, totally screwed. Like, do you have any knowledge of like the history of the system, how we got to be in this place where, you know, we're relying on money that isn't real?
Well, I mean, it's really just the history of usury. In fact, the FICO score was actually created in 1988. That was actually, you know, the history of credit used to be where they, you know, will look at your assets. They will look at, you know, your history of making sure that you pay things on time. But at the same time, they also would have to meet you to see where, you know, your head was at in regards to loans and things like that. It got to a point where it started to become more racialized, and it was a means of, instead of discriminating based on race, it was based on income, and that income would also disproportionately affect Black people. So it was really just a gatekeeping of making sure that we didn't have access to capital as readily as in white neighborhoods. Unfortunately, that continued, and that's what the credit score system is also part of it too. It's also a part of a white supremacist culture that has, you know, pushed us further to the margins. On top of it, you know, think about the housing appraisal system, where if they go into a house and then they see, you know, that it's a Black household, they'll typically appraise the household at a lower rate than it is at a white household. So therefore, the housing values are actually typically lower. And so this continuously happens. I think this was brought out in, oh my goodness, that credit union. I think it was Navy Federal Credit Union. They were actually guilty of discriminating against Black households when it came to housing appraisals and things like that. So it's not just the banks, it's also some credit unions too. So unfortunately, the whole credit issue really just, it's not supposed to be this drastic, but it is. And even still, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, maybe this is the far leftist in me, but I'm just against credit altogether. But it's just a way of keeping people in debt so that you can continuously get, more income over and over and over, and then they add that interest rate so that you constantly have to pay more than what you even borrowed. So
yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought some light into that, because that's some helpful, new information for me, and I'm sure for some members of your audience. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you. Why have a credit system at all? But I certainly had a feeling that the racism was going to come in there somewhere. Where were we when were we going to get to that part of exploiting people that aren't white? Like, I knew it was going to be in there somewhere, and there it is.
yeah, it's creeping its head in there somehow. I'm running a little bit long, more than I promised, but I do want to get into some foreign policy. Is that okay with you?
Let's do it.
Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, of course, Senator Marco Rubio, who was, he got the tap from Donald Trump to become the Secretary of State, essentially replacing the job of Anthony Blinken, aka Butcher Blinken, that we like to so eloquently call him. But after this, it was confirmed in the Senate 99-0. One of the people who helped confirm him was Senator Bernie Sanders, which just lets you know that it's a big club and we are not in it. But that's not the big thing that I want to focus in on. The big thing I want to focus in on is this move by Trump and the State Department. So this is not a political. This came out a few hours ago. The State Department issues immediate widespread pause on foreign aid. Says the stop work orders appear to apply to U.S. aid for all countries except Israel and Egypt. And so I just want to get into this just a little bit further. It says that Secretary of State Marco Rubio halted spending Friday in most existing foreign aid grants for 90 days. The order, which shocked the State Department officials, appeared to apply to funding for military assistance to Ukraine. It says Rubio's guidance issued to all diplomatic and consular posts required department staffers to issue stop work orders on nearly all existing foreign assistance. According to the document, which is obtained by Politico, it is effective immediately. What type of implications do you think this will mean for the war in Ukraine? And do you think that Zelensky's having a good day?
So just to be clear, so they are saying that it is applying to Ukraine funding as well, that may be frozen, right?
Yes, actually, in fact, let me share here. It goes further. It says it appears to go further than President Donald Trump's recent executive order, which instructed the department to pause foreign aid grants for 90 days, pending review by the secretary. It has not been clear from the president's order if it would affect already appropriated funds for Ukraine aid. It says the new guidance means no further actions will be taken to disperse aid funding to programs already approved by the U.S. government, according to 3 current and 2 former officials familiar with the new guidance. So from what it looks like is Ukraine aid will be halted. The aid, I think that's already been, set in motion will probably go to them. But any more aid after that is going to be stopped, which means that I think that President Trump is really pushing for just a complete and utter end to this war, which also makes Biden look foolish, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I know. I think the previous executive order that's referenced there made it look like the funding was going to continue to flow to Israel and Ukraine, and now it looks like they're pausing aid to Ukraine as well. And then the other interesting sort of part that I hadn't picked up on until just reading this along with you now is that Egypt gets to keep their aid. That's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think. I think to your previous question, I think Zelensky's not having a great time for sure. I'm sure your audience knows this, but it's worth reminding people that the folks that are suffering the most under war are the citizens of the countries that are at war. And so, it's the Ukrainian people that are suffering for, continuing on this war that's been going on, so long at this point. Maybe this will, I actually, this seems like it's going to make, hopefully it will force Zelensky to the table for some kind of resolution to this war. I'm anti-war at my core. I've done my share of protests both in Boston and local in my congressional office in Salem, Massachusetts, for Congressman Seth Moulton, who is about as warmongery as you get in the Uniparty. He's a Democrat, by the way, in case anybody forgot. And hopefully this might shift the game a little bit in terms of how we maybe find a cessation to violence at the Russia-Ukraine border. The way that this will resolve in terms of Ukrainian borders, remains to be seen. The Russia-Ukraine border, does it shift further west? It probably, if we assume the status quo, it likely will. I'll be interested for the blowback from the Uniparty against the executive, action that's being taken here.
Yeah, definitely. Let me get into this piece right here too, just to get some further clarification. It says the omission of Ukraine is particularly troubling to American officials who want to help to defeat Russia. Trump and Republicans have for years honed in on what they described as wasteful foreign aid spending under the Obama and Biden administrations. But in recent days, Trump has ratcheted up his rhetoric towards Russia, threatening Moscow with sanctions if it does not end its nearly 3-year invasion of Ukraine, and declaring that Putin bears responsibility for ending the war. Ukraine's government has yet to respond to the move, but boosters in Kiev are voicing hope that the pause won't set back Ukraine's war effort. It says, we are working to understand what this means for Ukraine. We're confident that the administration isn't going to let America fall for Putin's scare tactics. So that has been said there. It says people working in the global health are alarmed at the impact of the order on programs such as the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, which tests funding and treatment for people with HIV, mostly in Africa, and the program has received $5 billion funding annually. So this is really just going to be a broad spectrum, but it is also kind of sweeping Ukraine in along with it. And I'm at the point now where it kind of undermines the goal of using Ukrainian soldiers as a proxy to take over Russia. That's what it feels like to me. And it's like whenever I look at the Republicans, it's like they're like, wait, we don't want, it's like they want to go after Putin, but the neocons do, but the ones who are more MAGA, or traditionally MAGA, are the ones going, no, we don't want, war with Russia. And why are we, doing this? But at the same time, they're the same ones that are going, well, we need to go after China. Whereas it's the flip side of the coin, whereas you have the Democrats that are saying, we don't want to go to war with China, but at the same time, they're, kind of trigger happy to go after Russia. So it's kind of interesting to see kind of the flip side of each. It is really just two sides of the same coin, but they always just really want to go after war over one or the other, either Russia or China.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of subtext there too. I mean, PEPFAR, the AIDS program, folks might remember or might not remember who that passed under originally. That was under a Republican, George W. Bush, that PEPFAR became active law. The fact that would be going away certainly isn't great for the African continent. Obviously, let's not let it go by the wayside that, the one country that the aid is going to keep flowing substantially to, and I guess there's the secondary of Egypt, but the primary is, across the Sinai Peninsula is Israel. They're going to keep getting all their money for their genocide, whether it's going to remain in Gaza after the ceasefire, which it sounds like this is looking increasingly temporary, the ceasefire, while at the same time it's only in Gaza. So the exploitation continues in the West Bank. Was it Sam Husseini, the journalist who was, very actively pulled out of the press room? He tweeted or posted on X, whatever, a day or two after about the concern about the ceasefire, that this was actually just a stalling tactic to implement some other, tactic for increasing the subjugation of the Palestinian people, whether it was in West Bank or might just come right back in Gaza in not too long. But I will say the Egypt thing is really interesting to me. I guess Egypt has become more of a willing partner in, the exploitation of the Palestinian people than they once were, and it's a real shame to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, because you're touching on Israel, there was a recent video that just came out. I cannot play it on here because, of course, my channel would get taken down if I played it. But it was a recent video that was put out by Palestinian Resistance of them releasing 4 IDF female soldiers from their captivity that were hostages. And if you look at them, they are healthy, they are smiling, they are happy. They got goodie bags, they got swag bags from the Palestinian Resistance, and that was something that I found very interesting. And then even they were bought from out of the Palestinian Resistance to be in front of the people, and they were cheering. And you juxtapose that with the people who are in prison, the hostages, and see how a lot of them, their eyes are sunken in, their hair is going gray, they've lost a ton of weight, they look like they've been beaten beyond recognition. And so it shows the juxtaposition between the way Palestinian Resistance treats their hostages versus the hostages that are treated by Israel. And if you guys have not got a chance, if you guys are on Twitter, go ahead and look that up. That just came out within the last 3 or 4 hours about Palestinian Resistance and how they treated the hostages once again. And so I just want to get your thoughts. I'm not sure if you were able to see that, but unfortunately I can't show it on here.
Yeah, it's got to be very frustrating to run an independent media channel and not be able to share those kinds of stories and really give your audience the full context. So I don't envy you and your job in that respect, for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, the fact is, yeah, there's a reason why so many leftists like us push back against the notion that this is some kind of war with two sides that are, equally battling it out. This is a genocide. This is a cleansing ethnically of this area. And, the fact is, when you come from that place, all you can do is kind of return, to kind of basic humanity, to speak through your actions to the international community. Like, this is how we treat, these people that are, ostensibly on the other side of this quote unquote war. The fact is we still recognize their humanity, even though you don't recognize ours, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are the 4 females. I'm just showing a still. It says Israeli female soldiers: Karina Arif, Daniela Gilboa, Naama Levy, and Riri Albag, released today by Al-Qassam, speak in Arabic and say that they were well treated, given food, water, and clothes. They also thank Al-Qassam for keeping them safe from Israel's bombardment. Now, this goes into, of course, the doctrine, the Hannibal doctrine, which says that if there's any captives or any hostages are taken by the enemy, then Israel will eliminate them so that they won't have any hostages. And so they're grateful that their own government didn't destroy them, because now they're safe to actually go back home. So that just goes to show that, how we ask, who really are the terrorists? And I'm being kind to Israel by saying that the line seems to be blurred, when in reality, we know what's up. It's sad, because how many people have been murdered? How many children and minors have been taken in, have been kidnapped really by Israel, and have horrible things done to them, and then they're returning and they're traumatized, versus the Israeli hostages are coming back with swag bags.
I love the swag bags terminology. That hopefully that'll get through to some people. Like, wow, it's like they went to a concert or something. Absolutely insane. If I could just return back to sort of, I think maybe this might dovetail back in with the Ukraine war as well. I mentioned my protesting with Seth Moulton's office in Salem, one of Democrats' finest warmongers. The fact is, one of the things I was able to do with my affiliation with Massachusetts Peace Action was we were able to actually meet with Seth Moulton and talk through with him about our views on the peace plans, that are available that were available at the time to us in both Ukraine and the Israel-Palestine conflict. And what was crazy was one of the points that I was able to make was about the degree to which China was eating our lunch by being one of the folks that were actively seeking a peace deal in both Ukraine and Israel-Palestine. And he came back at me with like, well, do you just want us to be like China and all this stuff? And I just had to be like, not necessarily, man. I'm just saying that the U.S. should be the ones that are advocating for peace, and we shouldn't, let these people that we consider to be our adversaries, be the ones that look like the peaceniks as opposed to us. Like it's crazy to me that we wouldn't be the ones that would want for real peace in both these conflicts.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I wanted to ask is, I do have somebody in the comments that does have a question. Is it okay if I share that?
Sure.
Okay. So I just wanted to get to this from one of our frequent watchers, Roger Meadows. He actually has a question in the comments, and I just want to make sure that I respect it and get it to you, just so that we get that. So here, thank you for this card. He says Caleb Maupin said he put a freeze on weapons to Ukraine for 90 days. Yikes. Okay. Not looking good for Zelensky. But Roger says, and thank you very much for this tip for $2. He says, his name is Terence, Roger. Says, currently Massachusetts is in an indirect state for citizen ballot initiatives, meaning after an initiative qualifies for the ballot, it first goes to the legislator, where at minimum 25% of both chambers of the legislature must agree to adopt or reject. Now, the way it's supposed to work is if it is rejected, then it goes to the ballot for voters to decide. Yet in Massachusetts, if rejected, it just dies and voters never get to vote on it. They also give petitioners barely 3 months to petition for signatures. Let's change that. I have a plan on how we do that. Where let's change the ballot initiative process in your state, where if when running an indirect CBI for amendments for Massachusetts Constitution, should the Massachusetts legislator reject it, then it doesn't die, but goes to the ballot instead of just dying where voters never get a chance to vote on it. Plus, extend the time frame for petitioners to petition for signatures in 18 months. Let's do it. So just get your quick thoughts on that. On what Roger just proposed.
Yeah, so I know Roger. We've met in New York City a couple of times. Good guy, good advocate for ballot initiatives broadly. So good to see you in the chat there, Roger. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely for it. So interesting, real example of this was we just had a ballot initiative that passed in last November to audit the legislature. For folks who don't know, the legislature in Massachusetts is one of the most opaque in the country. There's so many of their actions that you have no idea who voted for what in the state legislature. And on top of that, like Roger's alluding to here, the legislature, after ballot initiative passes, can kind of just decide, we're not really feeling the way this is going. We're going to alter the language. We're going to, do this and that. And the fact is our auditor in Massachusetts has been trying to take the legislature to court to try and actually implement the language of the ballot initiative that was widely passed, by the state. I think like a huge number of the municipalities, like a crazy super majority passed this ballot measure. And yet we're having to go to the mat to try and say, yes, we should do what the people actually voted for us to do and not try and circumvent them. So I'm on board, Roger, for whatever plan you're looking to implement to make ballot initiatives go more straight to the people and then straight into implementation. Yeah, the question is how. There are great organizations in Massachusetts that are working on to strengthen the ballot initiative process. Act on Mass is a big one of them. So I encourage people to, if you're interested in Massachusetts state politics, to look into that. And if you're not, just to fight for greater access to ballot initiatives in your state. There are so many that don't even have any level of ballot initiative available to them. So thanks for the comment there, Roger. Oh, I think you're muted, JB.
My apologies. One thing I love is that between you and Roger, like you sprinkled in throughout a lot of different solutions as well. Then Roger gave us a great segue. So just to really tie things down, as far as solutions for really uniting the working class, because you and I both know that either if it was Harris or Trump that won, really nothing for those of us who are working and working poor and poor class. We will not actually have anything of substance that will really benefit us. What are some of the things that you personally think that would be the best practices and best modes of getting the working class to come together so that we can actually get a more egalitarian system, in your view?
Yeah, that's tough, but we got to start the work, and we got to start the work now if we haven't already. So my first bit of advice is start organizing locally. When you talk about the working class, first of all, so many of them are working 2-3 jobs. They don't have a lot of time to sit in a Zoom call to discuss organizing strategy. So you have to meet them where they are. And by the way, working class people can sniff out like an external movement, a mile away. So that's why I say organize locally, start organizing locally. I'm fortunate enough to be a co-founder for an organization called Solidarity Rising Massachusetts that has started organizing in Salem. I'm not organizing in Gloucester. We can talk about why with this group. I actually have another group that I'm working with for housing in Gloucester called Housing for All Gloucester. But the fact is, starting to organize locally and build your base locally, I think is really important. And then I think it's a matter of starting to network those local movements together. Find ways to talk about Zoom meetings, sprinkle in another meeting to be able to coordinate your movements, across municipalities, and basically just building outward and outward from there, to the point where you're, within the state, where you're within the, your geographic region. The fact is, I don't think politics, as much as they're national, and as much as we'd like them to be, more local, they're also regional, right? And so they're, I am basically, a naturalized citizen of the Northeast. I originally from Colorado, but I've been in the Northeast for a long time, and there's a lot of opportunity to organize across state boundaries, I think, and to build a working class movement regionally, and then maybe continue to expand outward and make it a national movement. So I've been thinking a lot about ways to kind of build that kind of organizing, and it's not easy, and it takes a lot of groundwork. But yeah, I'd say like those are kind of the two big things for me: is starting locally and then building outward, and also going directly to the working class people that don't necessarily have the time to in their busy lives, like just trying to make ends meet, surveying them, engaging them in like what is the timing of actions that work for your average person that does work numerous jobs to just get by. That part is really hard. That part is really hard because people just don't have time. They're just trying to make ends meet. But yeah, I'm happy to go into more solutions, but those are a couple that occur to me.
Absolutely. And I just want to share this before I let you go, is that, and this is something I'm trying to go to within the next month, but I just wanted to share this as well, because this is actually going to be happening on the 22nd of February in 2025. This is actually going to be a conference, and with Workers Strike Back, of course, it's going to be organized by Dr. Jill Stein, Shama Sawan, and of course, Chris Hedges will be there as well. And so this is what's happening, and they're actually trying to push for, getting a pro-worker campaign to fight the rich in two parties in the wars to genocide in Gaza, and fight all forms of oppression, and for a $25 an hour minimum wage, Medicare for all, affordable housing, and good union jobs for all. I am going to be trying to go there to push for the worker co-op type of idea, for us to push more for. I think the step forward is more worker-owned businesses instead of just having workers being unionized. But yeah, I just wanted to share that as well, because that's what's going to be happening on the horizon. Of course, I'm part of a local organization here in Orlando, and I'm also partnering with other local organizations. And so I think that's a great way to just basically say that we need to come together outside of online, outside the internet, actually touch grass and be out there. Because I was out there last week, actually. So, and I'll be out there next week too. So I think that's one of the best ways. And I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and for the advocacy work that you're doing, especially for people who are unhoused, because as somebody that knows what it feels like to be unhoused, trust and believe, it is a harrowing thing to go through. So just thank you for that. Thank you for the work you're doing, both here online, like you said, and touching grass with the mutual aid work that you do. Yeah, no, it's hard out here, and I'm unfortunately in a place with my 4-month-old where I'm having less and less time to be out there myself. So I'm trying to find ways to sort of organize hybrid, right? Organize both online and in person, and find the ways to make the impact I can outside of my workday. And by the way, there are so many disabled folks that can't necessarily make it out into the world, and so we have to find ways to bring them in too. It's all tough, but it's important. Yep. Thank you for being so generous for your time. I know I said less time than what I promised, but you were so generous and gracious with your time. I appreciate it. And if you could let people know where they can find you and what you have coming up next. Sure, absolutely. So I got my X handle there. I'm also on Instagram there at Cudney4MA. And I mentioned Solidarity Rising MA.org is an organization I co-founded that we're working to build a working class movement on the North Shore. You can also find me at housing4allgloucester.org, where
working in some small ways that we can in a very difficult political climate in our municipality to try and build towards housing for all against some pretty steep odds. So those are a couple places you can find my work, and I'm so grateful to be here with you today, JB. Thanks so much.
Thank you so very much for joining. And just to let people know, I was just going to share the organization that you're referring to, Solidarity Rising, ma.org, so that if anybody would like to, if they're interested, then I'll share this link in the chat for them as well. Terence Cudney, thank you so very much for coming in and having this wonderful discussion with me. All the best to you and your family.
Much love, JB. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. All right, take care.
You too.
All right, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. Of course, one of the things that we needed to talk about was some of the things that we're expecting from the Trump administration, which really isn't much as far as things for workers. But at the same time, what can we personally do in order to affect change, despite what the Democrats and Republicans are trying to, or they're saying they're going to do, or they say they're going to try to do for us, when in reality, it's just window dressing. There's no real meat and potatoes when it comes to actually helping us with that at all. So I just wanted to give my appreciation to Terence for that. One of the things that I wanted to get into is I want to continue to read some of the comments in the chats, and then we will get into thanking the patrons as well. And I also have a video or two that I want to get into, but we're going to get into that really quick. So let me share my screen really quick. Oh, let me put the link to this organization in the chat as well for you guys, so that you guys have that available too. All right. And if you guys have not already, also while you're sitting there, do me a favor, go ahead and give the stream a like. Do that. All right. Thank you so very much. All right. So let me share this organization for you guys, especially in regards to housing. Like that's right up my alley, because so many people go through so much, and people really need housing now. And I'm going to share an article really quick during the chat so you guys can see that too, because I think that's important. But we're going to go to the chat in the Rumble side first, and then once we do that, then we're going to go into the Rockman. All right, so Jokers for You says, it's clear the only strategy for people's revolution inside the empire will require out of necessity to find a way to split the ruling class against itself. This inter-ruling class rivalry is more complex than the obvious pitting against each other to drain resources to create an opening for people's revolution. It's about forcing a specific ruling class section to win by going to the extremes needed for them to win. And these extremes are what will motivate the masses to revolt. So in a way, it is the hegemonic quantitative concentration of power, which exponentially increases rapidly, seemingly out of nowhere, which itself allows the system to educate the masses. For example, the People's AI Revolution, using the technology they use to destroy us to instead remove them from power. A big factor too is not only time availability, it is the stress of not having any stability, the stress of surviving day to day, week to week. The stress does a lot of damage. The stress may be one of the real purposes of forcing people into these work to survive scenarios. Remember, the ruling class is also stressed, as no matter isolated they are, they're still affected by the stress of the escalation of conflicts. Thank you very much for that, Jokers for You. Appreciate that analysis, because a lot of times we tend to not take the analysis in, because we're just so bogged down by what's going on in our daily lives. But I appreciate that very much. Let's go into the Rockfin chat. All right. So Hempcar says Trump's Stargate program wants to use AI and mRNA shots for cancer. Seems strange. How can AI help you in medicine? The same guy then says we'll be constantly watch with drones and it'll make us all be on our best behavior. Yeah, I saw that. That was some bull. He says petitions should be open indefinitely for years. If you can get half of the country to sign, it should be enacted. Got some people in Germany to sign this. So petition to end U.S. NATO war crimes and abuses of power. Well, that sounds like something I'll definitely sign right now. This call for an immediate moratorium on depleted uranium, white phosphorus, torture, domestic black ops, counterintelligence, COINTELPRO, operations against nonviolent organizers, to have the prevention of an arms race in outer space, resolutions to end our agenda for full spectrum dominance, and to create green jobs by incentivizing green self-sustaining technology. Hey, I'll share that. Why not? Okay. Hemcar be coming in with the receipts. Between you and Roger, man, y'all keep me on my toes. Call me Twinkle Toes. Fred Twinkle Toes Flintstone. Y'all remember that? I'm showing my age here. All right, hang on. Let's go back. Let me see. Says Hemcar says Trump is shafting RFK Jr. and sucking up to Bill Gates. I don't know how he's going to hold his base and remain popular. Ooh, oh yeah. The whole issue regarding the World Health Organization and Trump pulling out of the World Health Organization in favor of giving with the organization that is spearheaded or in partnership with Bill Gates. Yeah. That's not going to bode too well with a lot of people who are MAGA, especially the fact that Bill Gates is one of the people who has something to gain from all this. Like, no, my point is that why are we depending on billionaires for our health? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Well, from a capitalist perspective, it definitely makes sense. But from a humanitarian perspective, it doesn't make sense at all. And so when I look at people like Donald Trump, of course he's going to do something that favors one of his billionaire buddies. And just because Bill Gates is what people would think of as a liberal billionaire, they all have class solidarity. So if you're a Bill Gates and a Donald Trump, you're going to have class solidarity no matter what. And so that's the thing. This is why. And how they got to that billionaire status, well, it was some nasty work that got them to that point, which means that they're going to continue that nasty work to keep that same level of wealth and power that they have. Donald Trump is no different. And so this is the thing that people, including people who are Donald Trump supporters, need to realize, is that they're getting swindled. Just like the Democrats swindled, many liberals, Donald Trump and the MAGA movement they're swindling working class people, especially people who are conservative minded. And that's the problem. And I'm just being honest with y'all. Leave both parties, man, because they are not there for you. Donald Trump may say a lot of the right things, but he'll smile in your face all the time. You want to take your place. Backstabbers. Okay. Roger says, here's the thing. I think Americans would take those jobs. When businesses lack supply, they're forced to raise wages and benefits. Pick fruit? Sure, you better pay us a wage matching cost of living. Plus, while not doing it from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m., $55 an hour from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., first shift, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., second shift. Jay, you never sent me those updated numbers about our national credit card debt and other debt is, I just sent those episodes to Terrence. Speaking of which episode are you up to? Okay, as far as the Americans taking those jobs, you're right. One thing I will say, Americans will take those jobs, but those Americans that will take those jobs will be the ones that are probably going to be incarcerated. Because they're not going to want to pay people a living wage for those. They're going to get more incarcerated. And I can actually see the incarceration rate going up because instead of us not having undocumented immigrants to be able to do those jobs because they can exploit them, they're going to get another class of people to exploit. That's honestly how I see it. You know, and that's the thing. The prison labor is going to jump. So, yeah, I do see more Americans doing those jobs. And all that's going to be made in America is because of prison slave labor. That's how I see it. You know? So the whole just like locking up the border, and then if you lock up the border, that's going to mean a whole bunch of jobs for a whole bunch of Americans, especially Black Americans. They're going to exploit somebody. I trust the state to be a snake. And those snakes are going to come up with a way to do whatever they can to screw us over once again. That's why systemic change needs to happen from the ground up. And part of that systemic change actually needs to be international class solidarity. But I see what you mean. Let me go here. And I haven't gotten to that yet. Sorry, Roger, as far as finishing the episodes. Hepcar says, except Israel, Egypt, because we have to fund both sides of that conflict. Yeah. Well, true. Thank you very much for the tip. Hempcar as well says smiling faces tell lies, and I got proof. Yep, absolutely. Thank you so very much for that. Let's get into the rest of the chat and say my hellos, my salutations, and all that good, beautiful, beautiful stuff. All right, everybody. Who's in the chat? Bad Wolf's in the chat says, who are these people? Sometimes I ask myself that question whenever I look in the mirror. I know, right? Top of the morning to you too, Bad Wolf. All right, Terry Cudney coming in saying, greetings, JB and comrades. All right, Cowboy Kitty coming in with smiles and waves. Jay's Heart coming in saying, good afternoon, all good to see you. And Bad Wolf, look, flattery will get you everywhere. You like Visa. You everywhere I want to be. Bobby saying, it's the JB show, starring the one and only JB. Bless, bro. Thank you so very much, Bobby. Appreciate it. Mansa, you named after Mansa Musa? Says, if only government was run by individuals I liked, it would be so much better. Ignoring the fact that people voted for Trump, and you think turning your workplace into a democracy is a good thing. LOL. Here's the thing. I don't want government ran by people that I like. I want government ran by people who the people choose without money being influenced into choosing those people. First of all, ignoring the fact that people voted for Trump. Yeah. You know, just like the same people who voted for Harris. Here's the thing, right? When you have a two-party system and people only vote pretty much under duress because that's the only choices that they have, and then both of those choices are funded by corporate dictators that actually are using the system in order to keep us within a certain framework, to keep us within a certain lane so that we don't venture outside of it, so that it threatens the power of these people at the top, then of course they're going to vote for somebody who is a con man like Trump, just like they were going to vote for a con woman like Kamala Harris. So that's the problem. And then on top of it, anybody else who was trying to go past that, who wasn't being beholden by corporations, who wasn't beholden by money and politics, they're gatekept against by the same stenographers that will push for war with Russia or war with China or for a genocide. So this is the Fox Newses and the One American News Networks and the MSNBCs and the CNNs and the ABCs and the CBSs, right? And so therefore, people don't know the name of a Claudia de la Cruz. They don't know the name of a Jill Stein. They don't know the name of a Dr. Cornel West. They don't know the name of a Jasmine Sherman. And so guess what? Then they don't know these names. So then they think that the only choice is between diarrhea and a hard stool, right? That's the only thing that they think that they have a choice between. So it's either they're going to choose none at all and they're going to stay home, or they're going to choose one of two terrible choices, right? And so turning your workplace into a democracy actually takes the power away from these corporate dictators and puts it in the power of the workers. So then our government is no longer in the hands of these corporate dictators. It's in the power and it's in the hands of the workers that wield it. Government is a tool, and whoever wields it does whatever they want with it. And so if you have an axe in the hands of an axe murderer, what are they going to do? If you put an axe in the hands of somebody, like for instance, a carpenter, or a lumberjack, then they're going to use the axe in that way. But the thing is that you have to wrestle the government out of the power, out of the hands of the people who wish to do harm, like the corporate dictators, like the Peter Thiels, like the Elon Musks, like the Bill Gates, like the Mark Zuckerbergs, right? Like the Harlan Crows. That's what it is. And so placing the power, the means of production into the hands of the workers will actually mean that all the power is in the people's hands. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. And I hope you're here to stay for a little while so that you can learn a couple things. But the problem is that we're sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, this is the president, so this is the system that we have to go with. No, you're not dreaming big enough. Dream bigger. Roger says, question on the chair. Oh, yeah, we already got to that. Roger says, Californians can run CBI amendments. They don't have to depend on the government. They are the government. Exactly. Thank you very much, Roger. Creative Experiments coming in saying, our labor is paying for free food, free rent, and free healthcare. We're just not getting it. And we're giving free food, free rent, and free healthcare to who? The billionaire class, the corporate oligarchs. That's who is getting all the free stuff. We're just switching it around. We're just saying, absolutely not. We want some of that freedom. Stop hoarding it at the top. Thank you very much for that. The one from BK, it's not Burger King, is it? Says this is systemic. Absolutely it is systemic. Teresa says the price of food means you can't buy extras, which hurts the economy. Biden should have extended the pandemic policy such as SNAP benefits. I absolutely agree. This would have actually helped us a lot, especially in regards to the amount of people becoming unhoused in our area. Teresa, you just gave a great segue into this. Let me share this with you guys just so that I can show you this. I've been wanting to share this as well. This actually came out in the middle of last year. This is out of Orlando Weekly. So this is very local for me. It says the number of unsheltered homeless people in Central Florida has more than doubled, new data shows. The blurb says the latest data on homelessness in Central Florida shows that the region is no longer a place where older adults can retire and live comfortably with dignity. And so this is something a lot of people are scratching their heads up. The capitalists are like, well, I thought people just got to pull themselves up by the bootstraps and work hard. But here's the thing. Here's the people working hard, and here they are being homeless. Does it work? I mean, the data shows it doesn't. So let's continue here just to get a little bit, because people are like, well, you're just looking at the title, right? You got to go deeper into it. Okay, let's go into it. It says, after reporting a slight decline in the number of unhoused people in the Central Florida region just ahead of the pandemic, advocates say the direction has now sharply reversed, with new figures showing a rise in homelessness That's worse than ever. It says the number of homeless people in Central Florida who are living in their cars, on the streets, or otherwise without access to emergency shelter or transitional housing are more than double this past year, according to the region's latest point-in-time count, with the bulk concentrated in Orange County, where I live. According to the latest data, the number of homeless people counted across Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties this January rose 28% in total, from 2,258 people in 2023 to 2,883 in 2024. Meanwhile, the total number of those people without any sort of shelter across the region increased 105%, from 587 people to about 1,200. 105%. Does this system work? And mind you, how many of these people actually have jobs? I'm willing to bet about at least 40% of them, 50% of them have jobs. And so we're talking about, well, people just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. What is Donald Trump going to do about these people? Oh, but we just don't want them sleeping out in the streets. Okay, well, are you going to give them housing? We could do that. We could push for housing first initiatives. I mean, Finland did it. If they could do it, then so can we. So yes, it's becoming very harrowing. And the reason, for this is, according to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, their Out of Reach program, Florida is the 10th most expensive state in the United States. Out of all 50, the 10th most expensive. And then on top of that, you need to make at least $35 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the state of Florida. And one of the emerging areas within Florida that is becoming the most expensive to live as far as cost of living is Orange County, where I live, Orlando. Besides Miami and Tampa and Jacksonville and West Palm, it's crazy. Charles J says, when do the current Ukraine contracts end? Because if it ends after Trump's presidency, then his being against it is meaningless. Well, yeah, so they're talking about halting and freezing it now. So, yeah. Roger says, sounds like Manso West either likes having a boss, having no power in the company, or wants all the power in the company. If the latter, then we built worker co-ops. We'll be glad to pilfer your employees. Yeah, absolutely. All One Same says, much needed discussion on housing organizing. Money could be accrued through community trust schemes. Good to see you, John H. All right, so let me do this here as well. Y'all know what time it is. Shout out to the patrons on Patreon. Here are the tiers. So good to see all the people here that have been making sure that I can keep the lights on. So I just want to share my appreciation. Thank you to the mega JBFaunters, the super duper JBFaunters, the super JBFaunters, JBFaunters, the comrades, the solidarities, and the JB members. And I just want to give a shout out to brand new member, Suzanne C as in cool, as a cucumber. Thank you so very much to Suzanne. And thank you very much to everybody that has been supporting the channel. By the way, in addition to and furthermore, just to let you guys know, if you guys have not noticed that my channel is demonetized, so if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. Thank you so very much. I love y'all. Also, just to let you guys know, of course, as you guys know, I actually talked about it. The organizing conference that's going to be happening in Seattle, Washington on February 22nd. I'm trying to get there. So if you guys would like to help me get there, then that'd be great. Even if you guys just share it, that's fine too. But just to let you guys know, that's where I'm on my way to. And so right now we are further to our goal. I think we're about 40% to our goal. So this is James' trip to Seattle organizing conference. This is for Workers Strike Back. So I'll be going there. I talked about this on Tuesday. So if you guys would like to, you guys can actually donate to that. I actually have, I'm going to share the link here. It is very deeply appreciated if you guys would like to assist me with that. I'll also have it linked in the comments after the stream is finished. But thank you so very much to everybody for that. One of the things that I want to do, especially for this organizing conference, is it gives me the ability to, connect with different organizers and then talk about pushing for worker power and also class consciousness so that we can actually have a better system. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, these politicians are not going to do a damn thing for us. These politicians in duopoly are really just maintaining the system for the very ultra rich. And so I ain't about that life. I'll just put it that way. So that's what we're going to be doing. So thank you so very much to everybody who's helped me out so far in that regard. I'll share this also in the Rumble and Rockfin chats as well. All right, so let me check the Rockfin one more time before I head out, because I think there's some more chats. Roger says, good point on the prison labor. That's why you've been seeing initiatives closing the loophole on the 13th Amendment. You know what the state failed to ratify that? California. Of course I know. Isn't that crazy though? California, of all states, failed to ratify the 13th Amendment. That's wild to me. That's supposed to be a liberal safe haven. That's supposed to be a liberal bastion. And they failed to ratify the 13th Amendment? Like, what in the world is wrong with y'all? Don't answer that question. I already know what's wrong with them. But I'm just, speaking it out. It's just crazy to me, right? These people, I'm telling you, these liberals will team up with fascists before they'll ever team up with socialists. I'm telling you right now. It says California, but Louisiana, Alabama, Vermont, Nebraska, Utah, Oregon, Tennessee successfully ratified that into their state constitution. So if that loophole closed, they're forced to pay wages matching the outside. Okay. Also, make it where they can get out. They automatically get hired, or they have their choice of companies that they made products for. Pick of the litter to decide which company they wish to ask for. I think that would be also pretty good too. He continues, says, idea for the next show on the DM. Also, I will do that. I can help you get to Seattle. Shama, too much on union autopilot and hesitant to adopt worker co-ops. She can't answer the question, how will unions stop outsourcing? Okay. Thank you very much for that, Roger. But yeah, also, can we talk about the people who are in prison for non-violent drug charges, and then now we're legalizing cannabis, and then they're locked out from actually getting into the cannabis industry, even though they have more experience in the sale of it than some of these other dudes that are just now getting into the industry. So why aren't we expunging their records, giving them grants to go to school to get a business license so that they can do what they do before they went into prison, so that they can actually do it from a legal perspective and then actually make money making a living? Why aren't we doing that? Especially for the people who are black and brown, right? Imagine many of us who are freedmen. Hello, like how many of our family members were locked up because of nonviolent drug charges, and now some of those substances are now legalized, and yet we can't participate in that industry anymore, even though we did participate in that industry before it was legalized. It's crazy to me. This system, I'm telling you right now, they make me itch. Anyway, Snow Himbo, good to see you. Happy Saturday to you too. All right, so I'm gonna head on out because this is longer than what I wanted it to be, but it always ends up being that way. But I just like being around y'all so much. Y'all make me happy. Oh, I want to play this. I want to play this for y'all. Hang on, because I've been coming across some songs. Oh, hang on. Let me play this really quick because this came out 3 hours ago. Donald Trump put this out 3 hours ago. Now, if my eyes get stuck in the back of my head from rolling so much, you know why. But I want to share this too because I want to look at this because I haven't got a chance to look at this, and I want to see this with fresh eyes. Let's just take a look. He talked about the golden age of America. More like doo-doo brown, but let's take a look.
The golden age of America begins right now. America's decline is over. We will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth. I am with you. I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. The golden age of America begins right now.
But the thing is, he's doing everything that he said he was going to do. He showed up Biden bad. I don't agree with him, but he showed up Biden bad. I'm telling you right now. Can you imagine if we actually had a president that was for the working class? You know, it just makes me think, like, what if we had a president that was really for the working class? It would have, but that means that the system would have to be changed first. But he's showing us what could be done if there was a president for the working class. So now we know what we could do. I'm just saying. All right. So I wanted to share that because I wanted to take a look at it because I haven't seen it yet. And I was just like, let me take a look at this. I want to see that with fresh eyes. But yeah, of course. And I don't think I've ever seen a president do an ad after their inauguration, which is kind of interesting, right? But you know, hey, that's what happens. Let me take a look here just once. Okay, I want to play this. Y'all gonna love this. Y'all gonna love this. And then I have an ending song that we're gonna end with. But I want this song right here. This is a bop. You're gonna like it. Let me share. Let me share.
T-I-N-E, yeah, what might G-U-I-L-L-O-T-I-N-E, yeah, what might seem barbaric is the last resort to me, cause we waited for our crumbs to trickle down so patiently, and now we get to cosplay like it's 1943, G-U-I-L-L-O-T-I-N-E, I tried so long, so damn hard to have radical empathy. But now they've got me thinking, what's my favorite medieval machine? Gotta be the G-U-I-L-L-O-T-I-N-E.
All right. There you go, everybody. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. Roger says, my Democrat friends get pissed off at things like him displaying his signatures on executive orders. My response, I wish Democratic presidents would do that. Me too. Like, if I did a climate emergency bill, or if I were to do, say, something like an executive order, like I would implement like Section 1881A of the Social Security Act that gives everybody, healthcare, Medicare within the country because we're in a health emergency. I would assign that executive order, and then I would be like, take a picture, take 1,000. I'd be cheesing in that photo, right? If I did an executive order that pushed for a federal jobs guarantee, you don't think I'm not going to sign my name and I'm going to show it. I'm gonna hold that thing up. I'm gonna cheese like, see, look what I did. All right now, because I want people to know I did this for you. You see what I mean? Oh, man. Anyway, so yes. But with that being said, yeah, so tomorrow I will be live on RBN, and then this Tuesday, do I have somebody coming on this Tuesday? I think either this Tuesday or if I have news stories. I can't remember. Oh yeah. Okay, so this Tuesday, I'm going to be having on Joey Peltier. He's going to be joining me. One of the things I want to talk to him is about his great uncle Leonard Peltier being sent home by the Biden administration. So he's going to be able to live out the rest of his days at home. Of course, he'll still be on house arrest, which to me is complete and utter BS. He should be completely exonerated and free. Not exonerated, but he should be, his sentence should be communed. You know, he should be pardoned. You know, I honestly think that that's, you know, how it should go. But, you know, we celebrate the smaller victories too. So, but I would like to have him on and talk about that. Of course, we're going to be talking about some of the things as well involving the Trump administration and some more things that may come out over the weekend and over the next day or so. So we're going to be talking about that too. I also want to talk to him about changing the name from Mount Denali back to Mount McKinley. I want to talk to him about that too, because that was really a slap in the face to the Native Americans, in my view. And I'm pretty sure that he would agree with me, but I just want to get his thoughts on it, his thought, you know, his view on that. So I want to do that too. Robert says Governor Ron DeSantis proposed changes to Florida's ballot initiative laws that will likely kill the process citizens having long used to amend the state constitution, according to direct democracy experts. Of course, Ron DeSantis would do something like that because Ron DeSantis is actually anti-democracy. We already know he's anti-free speech by a lot of the things that he was pushing for, but we also know he's also anti-democracy too. The thing is that he'll say, well, we just want to prevent all the people from pushing woke agendas in our state. When in reality, I'm like, if the majority of people want a woke agenda, then they want a woke agenda. It's called democracy, dipshit. See, if I get on Ron DeSantis right now, I'll rhetorically, Robert Mick. I just read it from Robert Mick, but I'll look into it. But without that being said, let me finish up with this. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay. Let me go into finishing this up. So, everybody, please take care of yourselves and please continue to be as good to each other as possible, because there's a lot that we're going through now. A lot of people are hurting. So we are, you know, I don't want people to feel left out, lost, because even though I don't care about either party, there's a subset of people who are feeling concerned. But this is the time to organize, to put those fears, because the thing is like, I don't want them to be scared, but I want them to stay vigilant and concerned while using that energy to organize. See what I mean? That's one of the things that we're going to do. All right, so everybody, gonna head out. And with that being said, I think I'm done. Got everything? Yep, we're good to go. All right, so like I always say, everybody, water your plants. water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them, of course. Thanks to Terence Cudney for joining me for this stream to be able to have this great conversation. I cannot wait to see him once again. And look, of course, love each other. Mwah. Forehead kisses. Yes, John. This is the way. All right, everybody. Y'all take care. We're going to end with a song. This is from Comrade Jur. Look, let's take it to ska, baby. All right. You guys have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you to all the patrons once again. You guys are amazing.
Had a lot.
All right. And have a good night, folks. Take care.
You can hide a lot of anger and you can hide a lot of politics behind some trombones and a trumpet.
Yeah, okay, but who says we're trying to hide it? Cut the facade, we all know you're a fraud, protecting freedom for who you want to kill us all. Provoke genocide and claim it's a solution. Fear mongering to support your delusion. The way that torture gets you often makes me sick. Nobody but cowards love you. Stop being a hate-filled prick. The way that love and care upsets you makes you cry. You can't be racist because you hate us. Say gay, I say goodnight.
Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.